The views and opinions expressed are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of KTOO Public Media. This program may contain discussions that include terminology or perspectives that reflect different time periods, cultural contexts, or viewpoints that may not align with contemporary standards or expectations.
We each have our little things that we enjoy. And I enjoy toy trains.
And I told him I had the steam whistle and I wanted a boat. And I put it up to my mouth and blew it, and it made that beautiful steam whistle note. And I think that convinced him.
I just love doing it. I would love to just spend hours fooling around on it. I just love the bells anyway.
Greetings again, I'm Scott Foster. Because Rain Country is a television program, it's not surprising that we emphasize pictures. Like hand trolling in Elfin Cove, a cathedral in Sitka, eagles in Haines, whales in Southeast, bear tagging in the mountains, and more. This week, in addition to providing the visual, we're also going to take a bit of adventure with the auditory senses. We begin with one of the most common sounds in Southeast, a boat on the water, featuring a boat that chugs along to a slightly different tune.
Chopping wood is a regular chore for many Southeasterners. They stoke the fire to heat the house or cabin, smoke fish, or to heat the sauna or the hot tub. But one Juneau resident has revived one more reason to get the old wood fire roaring. Ron Klein worked off and on for 3 years to convert what was a diesel-powered lifeboat into a steam-driven pleasure craft.
The engine I made every bit on it, machined all the pieces, put it all together. I got the castings from a man in St. Louis. I mean, the engine's tried and proven. But the boiler I designed, I laid it all out just looking at pictures of old boats and old steam launches and how we could do it modern, maybe a little bit cheaper. The boiler itself was made in a boiler shop. The firebox, everything below the boiler, was made at a local welding shop. The engine itself, I machined. I got a little metal lathe, and I make parts late at night. And when I needed a bigger lathe, I'd go borrow a friend's. And just do a lot with a file and a hammer.
The resultant plumber's nightmare looks like it would take years to learn how to operate, and improper use could result in an explosion very similar to, in Ron's words, a small atomic bomb. He presents a convincing argument that it will never happen and insists it's really very simple to operate.
The fire makes steam in the boiler. We take the steam off the top of the boiler, run it into the engine down here. This is the main steam valve. It's the throttle. Makes the engine go fast. Slow it down. We can slow it way down. Really make it creep. The pistons on a steam engine have to have lubrication, and that's what this is for. This is a lubricator. And you pump oil into the steam line, and it works its way through the engine. That's how it gets the lubrication to the piston rings. The rest of it's all external. You have a sight glass up here. This tells you the water level in the boiler. It's bobbing at about 17 gallons. If that glass were to break, the only way we can tell if there's water in the boiler are with these tricocks. There's steam. That should have water, water. This is the injector that's used to add water to the boiler. sucking it out of the hot well down here. Water and steam mix, blast themselves into the boiler. You have a pressure gauge, tells you how many pounds per square inch. We usually run it about 125. Over here is a pressure relief valve. In the event that the pressure gets too high, that automatically opens. Keeps you from blowing up in theory, at least slows the process down. This big valve over here is a blow-down valve. After we operate every 4 or 5 hours, you get mud and scum in the boiler. It settles down to the bottom, and the idea is you open that valve real fast and it blows all the muck out overboard. Quick demonstration. And you do that every 4 hours or so. We lost about half a gallon of water. It's no big deal. You just add a little bit more. I know this, if the engine were a gas engine, as sloppy as that thing is, there's no way it would run. And there it is, just beating its heart out. I'm gonna slow it way down here. You guys that like to troll for salmon, look at that, huh?
Ron was inspired to build his steamboat by watching one of his favorite movies.
Now, in the African Queen, old Bogey used to kick this thing all the time because it was full of scum and rust. And mine is full of scum and rust. It's nostalgia for sure. This is what this boat, I mean, it's everything about it, in the design, the hull, the boiler, the engine, it's all old time. And it never really meant to be that way. When I started out, it was going to be somewhat modern. But I guess this is how the best design is, huh? Maybe we can improve on a 1898 steam launch. All that technology was worked out 100 years ago.
Those days of old are a major influence in Ron's life. He moved to Alaska in a Model T Ford that he had rebuilt, and his notable reputation as a photographer is based largely on his use of a panoramic camera that was used at the turn of the century. Of all his symbols of the past, there is one that strikes a particularly nostalgic note. The 1918 Lunkenheimer steam whistle was the first part Ron purchased for the boat. He then used it as a tool for getting a state grant to help fund his project.
I took the steam whistle up to their office, and I told them I had the steam whistle and I wanted a boat. And I put it up to my mouth and blew it, and it made that beautiful steam whistle note. I think that convinced them.
He got the grant from the Alaska Council on Science and Technology, a now defunct organization dedicated in part to developing alternative energy uses. You're probably wondering how Ron could rationalize a 100-year regression in technology.
I said, obviously we're not going to make something that's a steam fishing trawler, but people could get the idea. This is a highly visible craft. Kodak ought to give me a 20% kickback from all the pictures I've seen taken of me out on the water. You know, it's just that people see steam and for the first time, a lot of them, and this is good. You know, they'll understand that maybe it's an old funky boat, but it could be modernized somehow. You know, they don't have to use water. A steam engine could run on Freon and run, you know, much more efficiently.
Besides promoting steam as a form of power, Ron had another motive for the project. He just wanted to prove something to himself and the world in general.
I'm not going to stop doing goofy things. You know, I mean, this is a childhood dream, and it's just going to keep going. You know, I got other dreams. Might make a steam-powered airplane. Who knows? It's been done. In the 30s, a guy built one. It was so quiet, he said he could talk to people down on the ground while he flew over.
Oh, well, I drifted away on a steam-powered airplane. I went and stayed, and I damn near didn't come back again. I didn't go very fast on a steam-powered airplane. Oh, the wheel went around and up and down and inside and then back again. Sitting in a 747 just watching them clouds roll by. Can't tell if it's sunshine or if it's rain. Rather be sitting in a deck chair high up over Kansas City on a genuine old-fashioned authentic steam-powered aerial plane.
Hobbies like model trains come in all sizes and shapes. Gary Horton's hobby, if you haven't guessed, is collecting model trains. This Juneau resident has been collecting Lionel trains for the past 15 years. For Horton, the enjoyment of trains started when he was a boy. At the age of 5, Horton's father gave him his first train set for Christmas. That first train became the start of his collection and is the source of many fond memories.
I got into collecting because I just maintained a fascination for them. As a boy, I just liked the toy, that's all. That was what it was. And finally, years later, after all of the rest of us kids had grown up and gone our separate ways, I was able to get the set back together. And that rekindled my fascination with it. And since then, I've been able to pick up pieces here and there in the Juneau area and rebuild them, make them work. This is one example right here, these two pieces, this New York Central. And it was a real basket case at the time. I was able to put it back together and get it running. And then it just went from there. I've been picking up pieces as they come along and just having a ball with it, that's all. The first train set I got, Dad gave it to me for Christmas back in 1939, consisted of many of these parts in this set here. The set consisted of this piece and the tender, plus this box car, this crane car, and a coal dump car, this coal dump car, and this caboose. There was also a log car in the set that has since gone the way of toys. Probably the most enjoyable piece was this one here. And Joshua Lionel Cohen, who of course is Lionel Trains, put it this way. He said that it was to keep the little nippers busy with lots of things going on. And I probably had more fun with this one piece than any of the other pieces combined, because you could swivel it around, you can make the boom go up and down, and the hook would go up and down, and you could just have all kinds of fun lifting things around with it. It was really enjoyable.
Lionel is noted for the moving parts on their model trains and accessories.
There are smoking engines, railroad crossings that rise and fall, sliding doors, cranes to lift cargo, and men to move barrels. While these items kept the little nippers busy, they were not always reproduced to scale.
This is one of many accessories that Lionel makes. Lots of moving parts on it. Would, when activated, would roll logs onto the car, and then it would come down here, and then they could also unload them too. You'll notice the size of the little guy sitting here. He's sort of pushing those barrels around. And then over here on the loader itself, you see another guy. There's a lot of difference in their size. If he's a 6-footer, this guy's 12 foot. It shows that a lot of attention was not paid to scale by Lionel in a lot of their works. They were just primarily to animate things, make them interesting to see happen and things move. One of the differences in the quality of the Lionel products over the years is contrast between this piece and this one here. This is very late. This is built just a year or two ago. And very lightweight plastic, all plastic construction, where in years past they used more of a metal and some heavy bakelite materials, a lot heavier and a lot more durable, as is with this.
The serious collector can learn these bits of trivia from the many books and magazines available to the train enthusiast. There are books on the history of Lionel trains, reprints of the operating manuals for the actual engines, and historical articles about the model trains and the engines they replicated.
Another aspect of collecting is knowing about the trains themselves. For example, in this case, the M10,000 was built in 1933, and these pictures show the under actual construction and labeled it under the Union Pacific Tomorrow's Train Today. And that would have been, what, 52 years ago that this train in its prototype was actually operating on American railroads. Part of collecting, of course, is collecting the catalogs that cover the product. In this particular one, 1957, I found in the hardware store out there at Auk Bay, and it has everything in it that you'd possibly ever want in the Lionel line, including the crane car, or a similar one to the crane car and work caboose you see here. They would come out with an assortment of cars each year. You can buy, they probably have half a dozen or more different road names on different cars. They'd have a hopper with Alaska Railroad, for example. They'd have a box car with the AT and SF. And they've covered just about every road name that ever existed on the American railroad scene.
Through the years, Horton has collected over 150 pieces, and while coal workers are amused by his trains, he explains that it's just a hobby.
They get a chuckle out of it when I talk about my toy trains, and Christmas time comes along and got to have my trains running. It's a hobby, and it's like collecting stamps or having a boat or an airplane. We each have our little things that we enjoy, and I enjoy toy trains.
Chris Kyle is another train enthusiast. He wanted a small layout as a conversation piece for his living room, so he built an N-scale railroad into a coffee table.
I just wanted to get a little of everything I could into a small space. With train sets, you have the more popular things that kind of go with a train, like the train station I have over here, and then you have the railroad crossing, which is another pretty standard item people go for. And then you just kind of go from there. If you have a train station, you must have some type of a town or something. Also over on the other end here where I have the mountain stuff, I had the stream coming down. I figured, a little sawmill there on the stream bed would look nice in that area. This whole mountainside area, the tunnels and everything, is made out of
paper mache, plaster of Paris. I started out forming this by first of all making the little entrances, then taking thin strips of balsa wood and just constructing just a basic framework, and then laying over that framework the paper mache. Once that was all dried, then pouring the plaster of Paris over the top of the paper mache. It's a nice hobby, and especially with adults with children. It's something that both the parents and the children can get involved in, and it's just good fun all around.
The lonesome wail of a train whistle is one of those nostalgic sounds that even years later can draw strong images to the mind of those that have heard it. The geography of Southeast hasn't allowed many trains or their whistles in this area, but another evocative sound has been reintroduced to Juneau ears. Through a community effort, Westminster chimes strike once each hour and Carillon bells play twice each day.
In 1962, the National Bank of Alaska donated Schulmerich chimes to Juneau, Ketchikan, and Fairbanks. They played for many years, then faded into the bustle of a growing capital city. Until recently, the bells were in a state of disrepair when a few local residents started a community effort to revive the cheerful sound. The cost to rebuild the Carillon was estimated at $22,500, less than half the price of a new one. City officials authorized a $14,000 grant. Merchants, service clubs, and the local media helped raise the remaining amount. The bells are now installed in the Sealaska building.
The community support was just unbelievable. So something that for the next 20 to 30 years we're going to be enjoying in Juneau on a daily basis, and I hope everybody likes it.
Made in Sellersville, Pennsylvania, Schulmerich Carillons are considered the Cadillac of electromechanical bells, designed to give the listener the sound of cast tower bells without the expense. Arthur Collins travels all over the world installing both kinds. He spent 4 days working on Juneau's rebuilt system. Collins says listeners will notice little difference between these bells and the real thing.
They won't. They'll think it's Big Ben.
Small Flemish bells are the major instrument. This is the lower of 2 octaves.
These rods are collared and notched to give the same overtones as an actual cast Flemish bell. And these little copper whiskers here are dampers so that the sound won't reverberate longer than it should. The hammer strikes both rods at once, and the sound is picked up here, and it's sent to the amplifier for broadcast outside.
The main melody comes from the bell. The harp and celesta are the accompaniment.
The celesta has a little harsher sound than the harp. The harp is a very mellow sound. And they're both in the same rod. It's where they're struck that makes the difference. One is struck near the end, one is struck right in the center. And that makes the difference in the music. These again are cut, collared, and notched to give the overtones that we want. There is no actual, we're not copying anything here. These are original. This is copying a bell. These are original tone sources.
The Westminster chimes and music are programmed and controlled by this digital clock, but a musician can also sit down at the console and play for the public or just for practice by turning off the outside speakers.
We have a recorder at the console. That sends a pulse up here, tells this thing which key he pushed, and of course there's timing marks on the tape. And when it plays back, when it sees that pulse, it knows which key to play. When you tape music, you lose something. This way, you're getting the actual strike of the bell instead of a tape recording of it.
The speakers are weighted down with 10 cement blocks, and that, according to Collins, will help them withstand even the strongest Haku wind. As for the sound, well, on a clear day like today, we should be able to hear the bells way across town, at least 2.5 miles away from here. Davis has played the Alaska flag song too many times to count, but in all her years as Juneau's First Lady of Theater Organ and as teacher of many local musicians, she's never played a carillon. This was her debut.
Oh, I just love doing it. I would love to just spend hours fooling around on it. I just love the bells anyway. And the town, when I first came here, was so full of bells. Then, for some reason, the churches didn't seem to have any anymore. Nobody seemed to have it anymore. And so I was certainly thrilled when they decided to put these back up again.
J. Allen McKinnon was one of Davis' students. He has played this carillon before and believes it's as good a substitute for real bells as one could find.
On this particular instrument, you have the limitation of 75 bells. It's three two-octave keyboards. And so you have some flexibility in sound because you have the large Flemish bells, the harp bells, and the celeste or celesta bells. And so it gives you a variety of sound, but you don't have a lot of options, and so you have to arrange or transpose or adjust music that is in existence to make it work on the bells. And so the easiest way to play it is to put the pre-recorded digital tapes on. In the old days, when this equipment was installed, the bells were installed at the National Bank of Alaska some 20 years ago. The method of playing them mechanically was literally by piano roll. This new state-of-the-art, we can sit here and play any arrangement we would like, recorded on what looks like an audio cassette. It's a digital cassette. Put it in the player, and that arrangement will play, 10 times a day or as often as one would like.
Juneau's old bells are now new, and we will hear them for many years to come.
Steam engines, whistles, and bells are the sounds we add to this week's Rain Country Symphony. We'll be back again in 7 more days with another composition. I'm Scott Foster. Have a harmonious day.